Let me introduce myself. Welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Damiani. I am the Director of Gift Planning, and I'm also the Director of the McAllen Society, which is the Legacy Society. So in gift planning, I raise major funds for the university through deferred giving, which means a gift that we will not receive until you are up there at the pearly gates of heaven. And when you make this planned gift, you become a member of this wonderful community called the McAllen Society. And part of being part of this community, we plan a lot of social activities, educational seminars. It's a wonderful way to reconnect with some of your fellow alumni or just to be part of the St. John's family. So I hope you will consider becoming a member of the McAllen Society. And the way you can do that is educate yourself on deferred giving, on planned giving. So I offer these Power Hour lunches to be educational, to show it's great to stay connected with your alma mater. It has great benefits. When you graduate, you don't have to say goodbye. It's a great way to be connected because there's so many opportunities and great information and so forth that we like to share with our alumni, with our friends, with our employees, our faculty, and so forth. So with that said, today our Power Hour lunch is on from Medicare to Medicaid and how to plan, protect, and to prepare for your future. And I felt that this was really important. Not only am I getting close to that Medicare age for myself, I need to educate and inform myself on what to do when that time comes. But a lot of it is in the news. So I like to share topics of interest. And also when I listen to all of the McAllens, I listen to the conversations, I see what's relevant to them. So hopefully this will be relevant and it will be very informative to you. And I'm confident of that because we have two wonderful speakers today. The first one who is going to start off the discussion, her name is Ann Ricci. She is the owner of Ricci Insurance Services. She's a licensed insurance agent in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Florida, North Carolina, Vermont, everywhere it seems like. She began her career as a licensed insurance agent and agency owner about 12 years ago. She specializes in group employee benefits, individual life insurance, disability, and LTC, medical, dental, vision, group life, AD&D group, STD, LTD, FSA, HSA, HRA, and compliance. She works with human resources, sole proprietors, individuals that meet their insurance needs. Annie has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. I'm sure you need that for your job. And she also has a Master's of Business Administration Marketing at the Lubin School of Business at Pace University. She is not a graduate of St. John's, as you can see, but she is a friend and a friend to me. And she had no, she had to be a Johnny. Let's put it this way. I made her a Johnny. She's a friend to St. John's. She has made presentations here at St. John's University. And Annie and I go way back. We met at high school at Dominican Academy in Manhattan. So thank you as a friend and has become a colleague. Thank you, Annie, for joining us today. Our second presenter is another one who is wonderful. I've gotten to know Tanya for the past couple of years. She's a dynamo. I can see she's really great at what she does. Tanya Hobson-Williams is the principal of Hobson-Williams PC with offices in Queens and Brooklyn, where she specializes in elder law and guardianship matters, including litigating real estate and landlord-tenant cases. She has a distinguished career, including being the first African-American female justice in the incorporated village of Hempstead, where she served from 2008 to 2013. She holds a BA in government and politics from St. John's University and a law degree from Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law. Thank you. And she's also, this is her biggest claim to fame, she's a pickleball Johnny. She plays pickleball with us. And that's how I met Tanya. So I had the great fortune of that. So thank you again. I'm going to turn it over to, I'm sorry, I call her Annie because we've been high school buddies for so long. I'm going to turn it over to Annie, and she's going to cover first the Medicare portion of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for inviting me and for making me a Johnny. So Medicare. I don't know how many of you are on Medicare or not, but I'm going to start out with some basics. There's a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump right into this. So for Medicare, we have Part A and Part B. Part A is the hospitalization. Part B, in general, is the doctor visits and outpatient services. And in order to Part A has usually no premium attached to it. Some people do have to pay, and Part B does have a premium. So if you're not paying a premium or you don't have to, it's because you had 40 quarters or 10 years that you paid into Social Security. So you had a job, even if it's flipping burgers at McDonald's when you were a teenager, all of those quarters match, and then you should not be paying for your Part A. Or you can be eligible for the railroad retirement benefits through, or you have a spouse that qualifies for premium-free Part A, or a federal employee anytime after December 31st, 1982, or state employees anytime after 3/31/1986. So those are the ways that you can get the premium free for Part A. Part B does come with a premium. Luke, do you have my slides up? Go to the first page. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is when you turn 65, you can enroll, well, actually 3 months before, month of, and 3 months after is when you can first sign up for Medicare. I like to tell people just do it as soon as maybe like 2 months before you turn 65. Go ahead and get onto Medicare.gov and sign up for it. Well, actually it's SSA.gov. That's where you're signing up for it. So that when you turn 65, and it will, or if your birthday is the first of any month, then you are no longer, you're eligible normally in your birthday month. So let's say you were born on March 15th, you're going to be eligible as of March 1st for Medicare. But if your birthday is on March 1st, your Medicare will actually start on February 1st. So keep that in mind for the first of the month, people. So another way that you can get onto Medicare if you're auto-enrolled after being deemed disabled for 24 months. You should get a letter about 3 months before that happens, but you don't have to be 65 as long as you were deemed disabled for 24 months. ALS is also triggers an auto-enrollment in Medicare the same month that the disability begins. And there are times when you can delay your enrollment. So if you are 65 and you're working, you can delay it. But you could well, anyway, page 8, if you can go to page 8, and then we can go back after. Just go to page 8, and then we'll go back to that other page. Wait, I think it's right after this. I think it's right after this chart. Okay, right there. Okay, so you don't want to have a penalty for not enrolling when you have to. So when you turn 65, be sure to enroll the 3 months before your 61st birthday month. Although you can do it later, try and do it within the 3 months before your 61st birthday, but don't do it after 3 months after your birthday. The last time would be the third month. When to enroll, the initial enrollment period is 7 months. And the risk is if you don't do it, you can have a lifetime Part B and Part D penalty. If you're disabled under 65 after 24 months of SSDI benefits, usually automatically enrolled. And the risk if you delay are coverage gaps and Part D penalties. So lifetime late enrollment penalties, Part B, if you don't enroll in Part B on time, it's a 10% penalty for every full 12-month delay, and it applies for life. Part D, which is prescription drug coverage, right? So there's A, hospitalization, B, your doctor visits, C, Medicare Advantage plans, and D is prescription drug coverage. So if you have a gap in creditable prescription drug coverage, then you're of 63 days or more, Medicare adds a permanent penalty to your premium. It's roughly 1% of the national base beneficiary premium for every month you were without coverage. So you want to be careful. There are times when you want to grab D, even if you are still working. And I'll explain that. I'll explain that now. So if you work for a company that has under 20 employees, Medicare is primary. So if you enroll at 65, you avoid denied claims. So what happens is when you're in a company that is under 20 employees, you have to check with your carrier, the insurance carrier that you are with under your employer. So check with them first, but Medicare pays primary, and the insurance carrier, if you're just on straight Medicare, 20% of the cost comes out of your pocket. So if you had surgery, you could really be left with a big bill or even a stay in the hospital. Medicare is going to pay their piece, and then it could go to your plan, but your plan may not pay any more because they might not pay any more than what Medicare pays. So you're done then, and you can have big bills. So be careful if you're with an employer who is under 20 employees. If you have 20 plus employees, the employer plan is primary. So Part B may be delayed if the coverage isn't creditable, the prescription drug coverage. So what I mean by that is it has to be as good as Medicare. The insurance company will send out letters, and every company is required to give that to their employees who are 65 or older, or who are on Medicare if they're aware of it. Because if the prescription drug plan is not creditable, you could end up with a lifetime, that 1% penalty. You could be left with a lifetime penalty. So you want to make sure what you can do is, if you work for a company that size and you are eligible for Medicare, enroll in Part A. Part A should be free for most people. Enroll in Part A and grab a separate prescription drug plan. So then you know that you're safe. But your employer needs to give you a letter to state it's creditable, and you need to keep it. You could work for the company for 5 years, 6 years. Every year that letter is going to come out, keep it in a file, because Medicare could ask for proof that it was creditable prescription drug coverage. Then there is a SEP, a special enrollment period. You have 8 months to enroll in Part B after employment or coverage ends, whichever comes first. I don't recommend waiting the 8 months. You should go on Medicare if your coverage ends, if your employment ends on 3/31, then you should go on Medicare in April, in my opinion. Plan for it. Because you just don't want it. You can get into a little bit of a situation if you don't have credible prescription drug coverage, again, if you wait the 8 months, because now you've exceeded the 63 days that you are allowed to be without prescription drug coverage before getting a penalty. So COBRA and retiree coverage do not extend this 8-month period. Then there is for Part D, employer drug coverage. All right, we said that already. 63-day, the clock starts when the credible coverage ends. Okay, so then there's HSA contributions. If you have an HSA with an employer, you should stop your HSA 6 months before you are on Medicare Part A. Because, well, before you go on to Medicare, because if you delay your enrollment, when you do enroll, Medicare can go back 6 months. So let's say you were really eligible for Medicare to start on 4/1, but you waited 6 months to do it, right? Now, when you do enroll, they can push you back for Part A 6 months. Medicare can do that, and they often do it. And if they do that, and you didn't stop your HSA, that could cause a penalty. Okay, we can go back now to the first screen. So when you do enroll, there is something called an income-related Medicare adjustment. The acronym is IRMA. Some of you who are already on Medicare may have received this letter. So what happens is Medicare looks back 2 years every year. When you're on Medicare, they always look 2 years back. So in 2026, they're going to look at your modified adjusted gross income from your tax filing from 2024. And depending on where your income falls, you can see the chart, you can have an IRMA. So, so people who make more income, they pay extra for their Part B. Okay, so I'm strictly referring to Part B. So if you file an individual tax return and your modified adjusted gross income, which by the way, it's a formula that's put into place. If you look at line 11, which is your adjusted gross income, it's close if you wanted to just do a check. But the modified adjusted gross income doesn't really appear anywhere, to my knowledge, on your taxes. But line 11, adjusted gross income does. So you can kind of go by that. It's not exact. So if you make $109,000 or less, you pay the standard amount, which this year is $202.90 a month. If you file a joint tax return, then it's $218,000 or less. And if you file married and a separate tax return, it's the same as the first column, $109,000 or less. So that's the standard. Anything above that, as you look, the premium for Part B goes up. So if you make, let's look at the top line, if you make $500,000 or above and you file an individual tax return, you're going to pay $689.90. And I think you guys could read the rest of the chart, but basically not everybody pays the same amount for Part B. Okay, let's go to the next screen. And I'm sorry, hopefully I'm not going too fast. It's a lot of information, and Medicare is complicated. So not only do you pay an IRMA, the income-related Medicare adjustment, for Part B, you also pay it for Part D, which is your prescription drug portion of your benefits under Medicare. So the chart is the same, although the extra you're paying is not, it's less. So if you make above 109,000 up to 137 as a filing an individual tax return, you will pay $14.50 on top of your premium for your prescription drug plan. Part D, they call them PDPs also, the acronym. And then it goes from there all the way up to $91, depending on where you fall. And again, it's not a lifetime that this is going to happen. They're always going to look 2 years back. In 2027, they'll look at your 2025 tax filing. So sometimes people, like if you sell your house and then that shows up as an increase in your income, that happens a lot to people who are on Medicare. So, you just have to kind of prepare for it. You can appeal it. I don't know how successful people are, but there is a way to appeal it. Okay, let's go to the next screen. And I think there's questions after. So, write them down if you have any questions, and, we can review that after. So this I like to show to my clients because I have to get rid of that. Okay. I like to show this to all my clients because it gives them a good idea of what's covered under Part A and what's covered under Part B. Some of you may already know this, but Part A is the hospitalization. So for days 1 through 60, Medicare covers most of the confinement costs after the required Medicare deductible. So there is a deductible. So you would pay $1,736 and Medicare covers the rest. And then you could see the rest of the chart, 61 through 90 days. It's $434 a day that you would cover, up to $13,020. Days 91 to 150, you can pay, it goes all the way up to $52,080. After 151 days, Medicare pays nothing and you'll pay all your costs. I don't know anybody, I'm sure it's happened. Most people are not in a hospital for 151 days. You're probably in a rehab facility or a nursing home at that point, or, a home, I guess, but normally people don't stay that long. Skilled nursing confinement. Also, Medicare pays all eligible expenses for the first 20 days. So some of you might have been in a rehab place and you're like, oh, okay, here's my 21st day. And they usually have a meeting and they're like, you can stay, but you can pay this amount. And that amount is a lot. But, you pay after 20 days, you pay $217 a day, up to $17,360. And then there's hospice and there's blood where you would pay the first 3 pints. So in general, the message here is, and we're going to look at Part B next on the next page, don't just stay on original Medicare. Let's go to because there's out-of-pocket expenses. Try and protect yourself with some kind of plan. So Part B, your annual deductible is $283. And by the way, all of these numbers in that right-hand column, they go up every year. So the annual deductible, Part B is your physician services, outpatient care, tests, and supplies. All this stuff resets the following year. So your annual deductible is $283. It's for your first physician service, inpatient, outpatient, medical, surgical services, physical therapy, speech therapy, diagnostic tests. All of that is going to go towards the deductible first. Then there's after the 283, then there's a 20-80 split. Medicare pays 80 and you pay 20%. Then there's also excess doctor charges. New York, it's not a thing as much as other states, but in other states, there's 4 states, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania, who aren't technically allowed to charge these excess charges. So there's a little bit, like if a New York doctor doesn't opts out of Medicare, there is a potential that they can charge, but it's not common, and you would have to make an agreement to say, okay, I really want to see you, Dr. X, so I will pay. Okay, so anyway, the Part B, so you could see the clinical labs, generally 100% of the approved amount is paid and you pay nothing. Home health care, 100% of the approved amount, 80% of the approved amount for durable medical equipment. You pay nothing for services, like the 20% of the approved amount for durable medical equipment you pay. But for home health care, they're paying 100%, so you pay nothing. Outpatient hospital, the Medicare payment to the hospital based on outpatient procedure payment rates. So outpatient hospital treatment, Medicare pays their portion, not necessarily everything. So there's a coinsurance based on outpatient payment rates. And then blood. Again, there's A blood and B blood. I'm not sure the difference, but you would pay the first 3 pints plus 20% of the approved amount for additional pints. So that's just like in general what Part A and Part B is. And you know, the message here is that you're going to want to have some plan in place, whether it's a Medicare supplement plan with a separate prescription drug plan like AARP United Healthcare and Plan G and F and N, which many of you might be familiar with, or you do a Medicare Advantage plan, which usually has prescription drug plans with it, unless you're a vet and you get your medicine from the VA, you can go on a Medicare Advantage plan, even though you have the vet benefits, just for maybe some bells and whistles, dental, whatever, like you can get some other things with it, extra coverage, but you probably don't need the prescription drug portion of it. Maybe, you know, or maybe you do. Okay, let's now go to hopefully the next one. Okay, so now there are times when people receive extra help from either the federal government or their state, and it's all income based. So one of those, it's called low income subsidy, LIS, or extra help, and it's federal. It's you know, it's a federal benefit, and it's administered by the Social Security Administration and CMS. And Social Security, you process the app through the Social Security. So if you are an individual, well, hold on, I'm going to say this first. You can be auto enrolled if you are already on Medicaid, or if you're in the Medicare Savings Program, or if you have SSI, which is the Supplemental Security Income, which is a federal government. If you are 65 plus, blind, or qualifying disability, we have a qualifying disability, you also can be auto enrolled. So Medicare pays zero. Medicare pays zero of the monthly plan premium up to, no, they pay up to, I'm sorry, Medicare pays up to the benchmark of a Part D plan. So you still could have extra on some of the premium. There's an annual deductible before the drug coverage kicks in. Medicare pays that. And actually, I think on the low income subsidy, I'm saying this wrong. I'm like reading my notes and it's wrong. Zero monthly plan premium. And then there's low co-payments, that you get when you go to the pharmacy. So the costs are capped at the pharmacy. So in 2026, you'll pay no more than $5.10 for generic medication and $12.65 for brand medication. And there's a if you have a lifetime enrollment penalty, that will be waived. In other words, the one for not having prescription drug coverage when you were supposed to. Now, the chart on this page shows the annual income limits for an individual, $23,475, and for a married couple, $31,725. So that's the limit, and so that number or less, you are eligible for LIS. And it also gives you the resources on this chart that you are able to have. Counted for resources are your checking, savings accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, IRAs, retirement accounts, cash on hand, real estate other than your primary residence. Not counted is, as a resource, is your primary residence, no value cap for LIS, one vehicle, personal belongings, household goods, life insurance policies, burial plots up to $1,500 per person set aside for burial. Okay, so that's one way that you can get help. Let's go to the next page. And this this is the Medicare Savings Program. It's funded by the federal government and it's administered through the state Medicaid agencies. There are 4 levels of assistance. We call them the qualified Medicare beneficiaries, is a QIMBY. So Part A and B premiums, deductible, coinsurance, and copays are what you will get assistance with. You get extra help for prescription drugs, and you will not pay more than $2.65. And you can see the income limits right there in the chart and the resource limits. For a Slim B, you must have A and B to qualify, and they cover the Part B premium only. Slim B stands for specified low income. And then QI is a qualifying individual. The Part B premium only is what it pays, limited funding, and you can reapply yearly. And then there's a qualified disabled and working individual where the Part A premium only is what they assist with. So there's important notes. Your primary residence, 1 vehicle, personal belongings, burial plots are excluded from resources. Some states have higher income or resource limits, and QIMBY, Slim B, and QI, the first 3 usually triggers that you're going to be you're going to receive Part D extra help, which is LIS from the last slide. And then the QDWI, Qualified Disability Working Individual, applies to disabled individuals who lost premium-free Part A after returning to work. So the message here is there's assistance for you. Let's go to the next page.
Annie,
yes.
Sorry to cut you. We're going to need to turn it over to Tanya. Do you have anything else that you can do in the next minute, and then we'll switch it over to Tanya?
Okay. I have 1 minute.
Yeah,
okay.
You want to just close out,
Yep.
and then we'll switch over to
will.
Medicaid. Thanks.
I will. I'm going to tell you quickly. There is every state, most states have a state pharmaceutical discount program. In New York, it's called EPIC. And maybe these slides can go off to everybody after we're done, but it's a good program. It helps people with their prescription drug costs. All right, let's go to the next screen. And I think here you're going to see just it's what EPIC puts out. There's 2 ways of doing it. There's a fee plan and a deductible plan. You can actually call over to EPIC. I can give the number if you need it, and they're very helpful and they can help you with that. Just go to the next screen now. And I think the last one is just, we didn't talk about Medicare Advantage versus supplement versus, the prescription drug plans. This is just, a chart that is available for how the benefits work for a Medicare supplement plan. And on the next page is a sample in New York. If you're in Area A, Plan G costs $372.50 a month, plus you'd have the prescription drug plan that you would have to get as well. Plan N is $299. These are common ones that people go on. You can see Plan F there. It's getting kind of high. It's only available to people who are eligible before 2020. And then there's one other thing. There are Medicare Advantage plans, which are 0 premium plans. Some do have premiums. It's a less expensive way to go, and you have out-of-pocket expenses, of course, with them. And it's a little bit more detailed, but that's it. I'm sorry.
All right,
there was
thank
a lot
you.
of info.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It is a lot of information. We will share
Yep.
all of these slides and everything in our follow-up email. Just going to switch over now to Medicaid, and hopefully we'll have time left over. We might have to go over 5 minutes or so, but if you have questions for all of this, obviously we can get into it a little bit more when everyone asks for their questions. Okay, Tanya, you're on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Again, I'm attorney Hobson Williams. I've been practicing this year, will be my 30th year, which I'm very proud of. Before I start, I do want to give a disclaimer that the information that I give during this presentation is for general educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice, and it does not create an attorney-client relationship. The views expressed are mine only and not necessarily those of St. John's University. Anything that you have a question about, you should consult with an attorney regarding your personal situation. The other thing that I do want to mention is that I am licensed in the state of New York and Maryland. However, the information I provide today is specific to New York State only. Just by a show of quick hands, how many of you on today are residing in a state other than New York? Or is everyone from New York? I know we have. Okay, so I do see one hand. Luke, can you tell me how many people are out of state?
I don't see any hands.
Okay.
At the top of your screen, there's a raise button if you guys wanted to do it, but I don't see any.
Yeah, we had one
see
person
one.
from New Jersey.
One,
looks
two.
like probably everyone
Yeah.
else is from New York.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So most of the information or all of the information I'm going to provide, again, relates to New York State only. And if you have any questions, you should consult an attorney in the state that you live in. So the Medicaid program is a program that is funded jointly by the federal government and the state of New York. It's administered by the locality. So in New York City, it would be administered by the New York City Human Resources Administration, which I did work for many years. And in the other outlying counties, it's administered by the local Department of Social Services. I do also want to point out that there are some cuts that are coming to the Medicaid program, $1 trillion throughout the nation over a period of 10 years. So what does that mean for us here in New York? It means that they're going to be more strict when viewing applications for Medicaid. And so there could be a reduction in services provided because of these cuts. Also a distinction, Medicaid is a means-based program, which means they look at your income and your resources to determine whether or not you're eligible, which is not Medicare. So I know sometimes people talk about Medicare, but they mean Medicaid, or Medicaid when they mean Medicare. Medicaid, they look at your income and your resources to determine whether or not you're eligible. You have to be a U.S. citizen or a resident with documentation of that. For the two programs I'm going to discuss, you need to be over 65 and or disabled or certified blind. And there has to be a clinical need for the services. The two programs I'm going to discuss, and again, if we don't have enough time, maybe Susan will be kind enough to do another power hour just on Medicaid, because it's a lot of information. So I'm going to try to cram as much in as I can. So we could talk about home care first, right? So home care services are when someone comes into the home and they provide assistance with a person's activities of daily living. So that would be dressing, bathing, toileting, ambulating, transitioning, toileting, and those types of services. They can also provide light duty cleaning. So to look at whether or not you would be eligible for Medicaid home care, right? They would look at the income that you have, your monthly income, and then they would look at your resources to determine your eligibility. For income, for a single person, you can't have more than $1,835 per month in monthly income. Is that a lot? Does that seem like a lot to anyone? So many people have more than that, right? And so if you have more than that, there are things that can be done to reduce your income down to $1,835 so that you meet the income criteria. So many people, this is one of the myths that I discuss frequently, is that, oh, I don't qualify for Medicaid home care because I have too much income. You know, I have $3,000 a month in income, and that's over the 1835, right? So one of the things that you can do to bring your income down to the 1835 is you can create what's called a pooled income trust. And Luke, please put the diagram on the screen just so that I can give you somewhat of an idea of how a pooled income trust works. So this is an example where you have monthly income of $3,000 a month. And as I said, you can't have more than 1835. So what you do is any amount over the 1835 is called a surplus. So you take your $3,000 a month and you can substitute what you actually have in monthly income for the $3,000. You subtract the 1835. In our example, that brings you down to 1165. 1165 is the amount over the 1835. That's your surplus. So what you would do is you would have a pooled income trust created for that 1165 in surplus income. So a pooled trust is called a pooled trust because it's a not-for-profit organization, and what they do is they pool the income of all the people who participate in this trust, and that's why they call it a pooled income trust. So you would take your surplus income of 1165 and you would send it to the pooled trust company, and they manage the funds, and they also charge a fee for establishing this type of trust. So what they do is they hold the 1165, and it's kind of like a bank account for you. You don't lose that money. What you then do is you would send them a bill that is equal to or less than the 1165. So if you see in the diagram, it says the trust uses that 1165 and they pay the bill that you send to them. So in this example, I think I used rent. You have rent of $1,000. It could be rent, it could be mortgage, it could be utilities. So they take that 1165 that you sent to them, and they'll pay the $1,000 of rent directly to the landlord. That leaves you with $165 remaining in the trust. That allows you, right, to bring your monthly income down to the 1835 based on creating this pooled income trust. Now you still have $165 in the trust remaining. So next month, when you send them the 1165, they're going to add the 165 that you had as a balance to that, and you can use the money in that trust to pay your monthly bills. The caveat is you have to try to spend all the money that they're holding for you with your household expenses, because at the end of the day, if you pass away and there's money remaining in the trust, the pooled trust company gets to keep that monthly income. So if you're sending them $1165 a month, you want to try to spend it. If you're sending them $3,000 a month, you want to try to spend it so that they're not holding a balance that they get to keep when the person passes away. So Luke, you can remove that. And so that is one way that we get to use the surplus. You don't lose it, and it brings you down to the Medicaid limit. The other resource that is examined when determining whether you're eligible for Medicaid home care is the money you have in the bank. So that would be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, IRAs, annuities. They look at all those things, right, to determine whether you're over-resourced. So for Medicaid in New York State, for a single person, you can't have more than $32,532 in total resources. So many people who seek out elder law attorneys typically have more than that, right? And so if you have and life insurance policies, the cash value, they look at all those things and they add them all together. And if it's over the 32,532, then you're not going to be eligible. And so what you need to do is seek the assistance of a Medicaid attorney who can look at the total resources, your family dynamic, and see, is there anything we can do to bring your resources down to the $32,000 limit without you losing that money and enabling you to qualify for Medicaid? Because what we want to do is asset protection, right? Something else that you may find or you may have heard is, oh, you have to spend down your money. That is not necessarily true, particularly with home care, right? So you don't want, if you have, let's say, $100,000 in assets in bank accounts and so forth, you don't want it to say, okay, I'm not qualified because I'm over the $32,000 limit. I have to wait until I spend it down before I become eligible. For home care, that's not necessarily the case. There are things that can be done to preserve your assets, whether it's 100,000, 300,000, whatever it is, there are things that can be done to bring you down to the $32,000 Medicaid limit and preserve those assets for your family. Okay, so you want to make sure that you seek out assistance to evaluate your personal situation to make sure that you're not following advice that you heard or you saw on the internet, to save and preserve your assets for your heirs, your beneficiaries, your family members, your loved ones. Okay, so it's very important. Another thing with Medicaid home care, other than the financial piece, is the medical part of it. So typically we can control the finances, as I just showed you. If you're over income, we can create a pooled income trust. If you're over resource, there are things that we can do to protect those assets as well. Now, what happens is the agency comes in and they do an assessment on the medical side to see what the need is. Do you need assistance dressing, bathing, toileting? And they score it. Based on the score, they will determine how many hours they feel you need. It could be 8 hours, it could be 16, it could be 24 hours. You could have someone living in the home providing round-the-clock care for a loved one, right? But the agency makes that determination. You may not agree with it. They may say, oh, you know, they're able to do many of these tasks, and so we think that they only need 8 hours of services 7 days a week. 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you may not agree with that. So there's always a way to challenge that. There are ways to appeal it internally with the agency. You can also appeal it with the state, with a fair hearing. So I don't want people to walk away thinking that, you know, they're over, the income is over, the resources are over, and they will never qualify for home care. So I want you to, the takeaway is to seek assistance and advice from an attorney who is knowledgeable about Medicaid planning. So we're not going to go to a real estate attorney, right? We're not going to go to a personal injury attorney, right? We're going to go to a professional who is knowledgeable about these issues. The other thing is that people equate with Medicaid is a look-back period. So with home care, Medicaid paying for home care services, there is no look-back period. I'm going to repeat that one more time. In New York State, Medicaid home care, there is no look-back period right now. Okay, so we talked about the cuts to the Medicaid program, and back in 2020, New York State enacted a law that says there will be a 30-month look-back period for home care. However, it has not been implemented yet. So while the law allows us to perhaps transfer assets to be eligible for Medicaid home care without a look back period, if this is a program you think is suitable for you or a loved one, you should take advantage of it now while there is no look back period. So that's Medicaid home care in a nutshell. The next program is Medicaid nursing home care, which is different. The rules are similar, but nursing home Medicaid has additional rules. One of them is there is a 5-year look back period. So what that means is when you apply for Medicaid, if you apply for Medicaid today in 2026, they are going to look at all your assets and bank statements that occurred over the past 5 years. So that would be 2021 through 2026. So they're looking for any deposits or withdrawals that exceed, say, $2,000, $2,500 that you don't have an explanation for, or that were given as gifts to people. There are some exceptions to that. And again, that's why it's important that you consult with someone. I don't want you to think that, okay, well, I know that I gave my grandchild a $5,000 gift. And so, the attorney on the call said, well, there's a 5-year look back period, I'm not eligible. That is not necessarily the case. So you want to make sure that you are consulting with someone who knows how to assess your finances, look at your bank statements, and look at all the transactions and give you advice as to whether or not any of these transactions would be subject to that 5-year look back period. The other piece that I want to point out about Medicaid for nursing home care. Now, you just had the discussion about Medicare. So with nursing home care, if you have an individual who goes into a nursing home, Medicare will pay for that stay for days 1 through 20 in full. That's Medicare. Days 21 through 100, Medicare charges a copayment. And Ann discussed that copayment is $217 per day that you will have to pay if you're there for days 21 through 100. If you're there longer than 100 days, then you're going to pay the private pay rate of that facility. And nursing homes, depending upon the need of the individual, they charge anywhere between $300 to $500 per day. So if a nursing home, for example, charges $15,000 a month, which is, an average that you could potentially see or more, and if your loved one is there for a year, they could be charged $180,000 for that 1-year stay. Now, if you're paying privately out of pocket, right? If you have $300,000 in the bank, that's $180,000 gone right off the top. There are plans and things that can be done to assist people, right, in qualifying for nursing home Medicaid as well. Just quickly, because I know we're running out of time, if an individual is applying for Medicaid for nursing home, the resource standard is the same. So if it's an individual, they can't have more than $32,532 in the bank for Medicaid nursing home. Whatever you have in monthly income, generally it all goes directly to the nursing home, and the individual is only able to keep $50 a month for personal needs. So if you have $3,000 in monthly income, all of that, less $50, goes directly to the nursing home to cover the cost of care while you're there. So after day 20, when you start that copayment, that $217 a month copayment, you might want to apply for Medicaid so that it'll cover after the 21st day. Or if you're paying the copayment after day 100, you want to apply for Medicaid to cover the cost of care, or you'll be paying that private pay rate, which could exceed $180,000 over the course of a year. So again, the takeaway is just because you have a lot of monthly income or a lot of resources in the bank does not necessarily mean you do not qualify for Medicaid. If you own a home, that does not mean that you automatically are ineligible for Medicaid. If you have a home and you're thinking about it, some people think, oh, I have a home, they're going to put a lien on my home, or they're going to take my home. Again, those are myths, and they can be addressed if you seek the advice and counsel of a qualified elder law attorney. So I know we only have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to stop there, and hopefully we have some questions.
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, Annie. I know these both topics are really, detailed and a lot of information. This is to give you an overview, but please share your thoughts with us. If you want to learn more, you want to hear more about these topics, certainly we can offer, like Tanya said, maybe another session just on Medicaid and on Medicare. So now this is, I'm turning it over to our guests that are listening in on the webinar. And if you have any questions, now's your time. You get free advice. Anyone have any questions? Any particular situations they'd like to share so we all can learn from each other, because that's really important too. Okay, we have one here. Let's see. Let me just see here. Let me read Ellen's. Okay. Is a significant loss of income in the current tax year a reason for the reduced IRMA? I guess that goes to Annie.
Okay, repeat the question again.
Is a significant loss of income in the current tax year a reason for the reduced IRMA?
I don't believe, unless I'm misunderstanding the question, the IRMA didn't reduce. The IRMA is the same. So, but it can, if you're asking if it can change year to year, if you have a reduction in your income, they will look at your 2 years back. And if you,
if you want a reduction,
maybe this is what it was.
She's saying if you want, Eileen, if you want, Luke, can you just turn off Eileen, just put her mic back on, and Eileen can just say it verbally instead of in the chat. If you feel comfortable, Eileen, doing that.
I'm not allowed to unmute anybody, but she
so
has
Eileen
permission.
would have
She can
to.
go ahead
Eileen,
and...
do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes.
And maybe you can explain it verbally. You turn your mic off.
So what she might, unless she comes on, I don't know if she'll be able
She
to
said
finally
IRMA's
unmute.
the same, but you want a reduction.
Okay, so I think what she's saying is maybe she has an IRMA, but this particular year that we're in, she had a significant reduction in her income for some reason. So can you ask for the IRMA to be reduced in that year? That's where the appeal comes in. Then she can appeal it, and the paperwork, I believe, can be found on Medicare.gov. But you'd have to file an appeal, fill out all the paperwork, and I guess that's what she's saying. I think that's what she's saying. Did I answer it?
She's typing. I don't know. She's typing. We'll see. Eileen, I hope we are able to answer your question. Anybody else?
Remember, it's not permanent, the IRMA. The IRMA changes every year, but you can appeal the decision.
We'll wait for Eileen to type. I have a question for Tanya. Tanya, you were saying, once you apply for the Medicaid, if you're within, now you get your income and everything within, the Medicare portion. How long does that take though? Like, do you get it right away, or is there a waiting period before you get the Medicaid?
Right.
Or
So
to apply,
we're dealing
I
with,
guess I should say. Yeah.
right. So we're dealing with administrative, agencies, and sometimes, and the Medicaid program is huge. And so
Mm.
if you're applying in New York City, and if you have all the documents that are being requested of you, for home care, the Medicaid approval can come within 30 days. It's the provision of the home care services that might take time. There's a shortage of home care agencies and qualified workers, so sometimes that takes time to be put into effect. But if you're in a facility and you're looking for nursing home Medicaid, they usually put you on what's called Medicaid pending, right? So they're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna, if they know that especially if you've hired an attorney to assist, and the facility knows that, they'll put you on Medicaid pending, and they won't bill you, right, until the
Okay.
Medicaid gets approved.
Oh, I see. And then when you were saying that the law is really, I think you said, it hasn't been initiated yet, but I mean, it could be, so take advantage of it. What if
Right.
the law kicks in and you're on Medicaid? Would you get kicked off for any reason, or
No, you would, right,
like
you
is there
would
a
probably
grandfather
be
law and like
grandfathered in.
yeah, you're grandfathered in? Okay,
Right, you'd
all right.
probably be grandfathered in. And I just want to say that New York State has the most expansive Medicaid program in the country,
Hmm.
that there are other states where you cannot get what you can get here in New York. So that's
Oh,
another reason to
interesting.
take advantage.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, Eileen, you did respond. So she said, is there a SSA appeals board? Because the website does not respond.
You're, if you're trying to appeal the ARMA, you've got to fill out the paperwork and
And where does
submit
she
it.
get the paperwork?
I believe it's Medicare.gov. Hold on, I'll look really quickly.
Okay,
I believe
all
it's
right.
Medicare.gov.
Okay. All right, we have Adriana and Eileen. I mean, if you don't want to type, you certainly can unmute yourself and just ask everybody directly if you'd like, if you feel more comfortable doing that. Anything else that you want to share? Well, okay, we have Adriana. If you have Medicaid in one state and relocate, do you need to reapply in the new state? That's a good question. That's for Tanya.
Yeah, generally you would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, generally you would, because again, the laws are different from state to state, and you would have to make sure that the person is eligible in the state where they're relocating. So you would probably need to do a new application.
Okay.
It's not transferable.
We're going back from Medicare. Okay, we're back to Medicare. All right, Eileen said she did apply and she didn't get any response. So why do so many doctors refuse to accept Medicare? Well, that I've been noticing too. A lot of doctors are dropping the Medicare. I know my family's doctor. He said it was either he retired or he dropped the Medicare. So he's still in practice, and so I guess we should be happy about that. But when you go to see him, you're going to have to pay. So what do you notice, Annie? I think we talked about this last time I saw you, how a lot of
New-
doctors are dropping it. Do you know the
Yeah,
reason
New
why
York
they're
City,
refusing it?
New York City
Yeah.
in particular, there's a lot of high income people in New York City, so they can probably continue to see clients and do okay.
Mm,
Medicare, it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't reimburse a lot. So
right.
they're
I was just
probably
gonna say
doing it.
that.
It's it's like the
Mhm.
concierge doctors, right?
They
Who
are.
not
Yes.
with any
Mhm.
particular plan, and they
Right.
charge a fee and you pay their fee so that you
Mhm.
can be part of their practice. So I
Right.
think that they're really feeling, doctors are just feeling kind of squashed by
Yeah.
how their reimbursement rate's not great.
I
So
have
that
I
seems to
have
be
a
what's
friend
happening.
who's a physician, and he said that he retired because of it. It was just getting to be too much that he had his own practice, he had all the overhead and everything, and he was showing me, I don't remember the example, but I was really taken back when he showed me all the expenses, everything that went in, and he got paid $5. I was like, $5? He goes, yeah, I got paid $5. And he was like, after a while, it was like, it was being too much. So he left altogether. but some of these doctors really don't want to lose, they don't want to leave the practice yet. So this is their way of responding. But it is sad. It's
I mean, we're
unfortunate.
seeing doctors too really kind of crunch the time that they spend with, especially the
Right, we
larger,
talked about that.
practices. They're putting
Yes.
pressure on the doctors, 5
Mhm.
minutes, and that
Yes.
doesn't include their time for notes. So they have
Yep.
to see a patient every 5 minutes, and then after their day is done, they have to sit and write all the notes because
Right.
they're going from one appointment to the next. There's a lot of
Right.
pressure that they're under right now.
Right. And I know we talked about that too. Again, to share a relevant example, I have a friend who just did something wrong and it was herniated disc, damaged it. And he went to see 4 neurologists. No one would see him because of his insurance. Insurance was all of these doctors were going to drop his insurance in January. He had the injury in November, so no one wanted to see him because they knew they were going to drop his insurance. He finally got to see a neurologist. He got 2 minutes with the neurologist and still didn't get any feedback, any care. He finally had to beg the last doctor, please, can I get this MRI? I just want to get an MRI to see exactly what's wrong with me. I mean, when he was talking about this, I was like, are we really living in the United States? I mean, it sounded like a third world country, where is somebody who was paying $9,000, I forget, I think it's $9,000 a year he pays, in insurance and so forth, that can't even get one doctor to take care of him. So all of this is a reality that everybody is experiencing right now. Hopefully, we all can get our act together and our healthcare will get a little bit better. But again, on this call, I hope everyone learned what Tanya is saying. She knows the law. She's worked for the, Medicaid system, so she can help you, get around and get the care that you want. Especially Annie too. I see how she fights for her patients and she really tries to get the best results and the best insurance coverage that she can for her clients. So that's why in some ways it's best to turn to the experts. You wanted to say something, Annie?
Well, there's that $2,100 maximum out of pocket right now for prescription medications, and that's having an impact as well in Medicare. It's helping Medicare beneficiaries, people on the phone, people who are on Medicare, but it's squeezing the insurance carriers. Now, I don't have bottom lines for all the insurance carriers. We can say that maybe, they're complaining and it's false complaining because their rates just keep going up and up. But what I do know is that when they hit 2,100, the max out of pocket for one person, whatever medication they cover, 75% of the rest of the medication is now being forced on the carriers to cover it. And so it's kind of squeezing them. And there are people like we're even talking about infusions and just expensive. Like you can have a $16,000 medication. I mean, it's possible. Like there's certain conditions where the medicine is very expensive, and the insurance companies now you're getting that monthly, they're covering it, so they're really feeling the pinch. I'm feeling it even in just what I do because we get hit too.
What about the
plans get hit
GLPs now? The GLPs is a big thing. Are those like if someone's on Medicare, are those being covered?
They are, but they're expensive still. There are some medications. There were 10 medications altogether, not specific just to the weight loss, that the government did reduce, so that people can purchase those medications. But those, they're not approving that medication yet just for people who want to lose weight. So you still have to have a medical diagnosis. So they're difficult to get. Yeah. It's not, and you would think that, well, it's important to lose weight. It's going to make you healthier. So is that a medical condition? But they're not accepting it yet as a medical condition. So you still have to have a reason to go on it, like diabetes. Otherwise, you're going to pay out of pocket.
So for both of you, do you feel like it really comes down to the creative writing, to really make these pleas to get the right coverage, whether it's Medicaid or Medicare. When people are assessing your medical or prescribing drugs and so forth, it really comes down to creative writing.
Well, you mean like the doctors when
Yeah,
they're
right.
when they're
Yeah.
coming up with the
The
diagnosis. Yeah,
therapist
I
or
mean,
whoever it is. Yeah.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how much they can expand or,
Right.
make it look better.
Right.
I don't know. Like they probably still are required to prove it. So if you want to go on the GLPs and you don't have a diagnosis for diabetes, they can't lie. I mean,
Right.
they
Right.
do have,
Exactly.
there has to be
Right.
something. If you're borderline, it might not be enough.
Mm.
Some people are just borderline, like they're right on
Right.
the edge, and
Right.
sometimes that might not be enough. So, I don't know how creative they can be. I think, at the end of the day,
Well, I know
they
for
have to be honest.
Medicaid appeals,
Mm.
you do need a doctor who is willing to provide a report on the needs of the individual, on the amount of care that they need, and to also, in many cases, be available to testify at a fair hearing in order to get the number of hours that you believe your loved one needs.
Right. I know we went over, but let me just ask both of you and if you can respond very briefly, because we're getting close to 1:15. What is one challenge that you see consistently that people come up against when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid? I'll let Annie go first.
Rates, the premiums. The
Mm.
premiums are going higher and higher. The plan designs on Medicare Advantage plans too are changing, where there's more out of people's pocket. It's becoming more expensive. Prescription drug medications, especially, depends on the state you're in. You can have a prescription drug plan in New York and have to pay $42 for it a month, and you can get that same plan in Florida and it's zero premium. So, and I'm seeing like $117 a month for a prescription drug plan. It's too much. I mean, there's lower ones, yes, but not as, there's a split,
Right.
with more affordable ones and higher ones. So, and if I don't know how they're going to fix it. And I don't know why Florida is any different in other states, why they can have zero premium and in New York we can't.
Right. Right. What about you, Tanya, in terms of an ongoing, a challenge that you see reoccurring in the Medicaid arena?
Well, two things. Number one is, as I mentioned, is misinformation that people just won't apply because they think they're not qualified.
Right.
The other thing is when people do apply, what I've noticed is that the agencies are being more stringent and strict with the documentation. And I think it's because of the budget. So if you're missing something, they will close your case. If you don't respond when needed, they will close your case. So I think a lot of the budget constraints are requiring the caseworkers to be very strict in what they're requiring. And there are new requirements as well.
Interesting. Well, thank you. I hope to everyone this was very, very informative. I know it's a lot of rules and regulations and so forth, but please let us know when you receive the follow-up email. If you'd like more information on this topic, certainly we can host another Power Hour luncheon with all of you in the near future. So thank you. And thank you, Tanya and Annie, for your time. We appreciate it. Have a great day. And
Thanks for
Valentine's
having